In the whispering woods, August was usually a time of golden rest. The meadows were heavy with the scent of dried grass and wild honey, and the trees stood still, their leaves a deep, tired green. But this year, the sun seemed to have forgotten how to set. Even when the moon rose, the air remained thick and hot, as if the daylight was hiding just behind the trees. The forest was exhausted. The squirrels were too hot to gather nuts, and the birds sat on branches with their wings spread wide, panting in the breathless air. Leo noticed the sun was no longer a moving traveller in the sky. It seemed to be leaning toward the southern ridges, lingering over a specific limestone hill long after it should have vanished. Ash. Beneath that limestone hill lived Barnaby, not the owl, but Barnaby the badger. Barnaby was old, stiff-jointed, and very, very grumpy. He hated the winter. He hated the way the cold made his bones ache like rusty hinges. He hated the way the berries disappeared and the ground turned into a hard, unforgiving stone. Not this year, Barnaby muttered to himself in the depths of his burrow. This year, I'll keep the gold for myself. Barnaby had discovered an ancient secret, a light well in the centre of his cave. It was a natural chimney of polished crystal that reached up to the surface. Using a collection of stolen mirrors and polished river stones, Barnaby had created a trap. He was catching the sun's rays and pulling them deep into the earth, anchoring the summer to his hill so it could never drift away. Ash. Leo was the first to realise that the forest's heart was skipping a beat. The maples, which should have been preparing their red and orange cloaks, were turning a sickly, burnt brown. The song of the seasons, the internal clock that told the animals when to store food and when to sleep, was falling silent. The sun is stuck, Leo, Pip the rabbit whispered, his ears drooping in the heat. If the autumn doesn't come, the apples won't sweeten, and if the apples don't sweeten, we won't have enough for the great sleep. Leo looked at the southern ridges. A strange, artificial glow was pulsing from the cracks in the limestone. It wasn't the soft light of evening, it was the harsh, trat glare of high noon, coming from underground. Ash. Leo travelled to the limestone hill. The grass around Barnaby's burrow was scorched, and the air shimmered with heat. As Leo descended into the tunnels, the light became blinding. He found Barnaby in a massive cavern filled with a maze of mirrors. In the centre, a pillar of pure, concentrated sunlight was vibrating, held captive by a ring of static stones. The heat was immense. Barnaby was sitting in a rocking chair made of cedar, basking in the glow, though he looked uncomfortably sweaty. Go away, fox, Barnaby grumbled. I'm busy enjoying the forever July. Ash. You're not just keeping the summer, Barnaby, Leo said, shielding his eyes. You're stealing the rest. The forest needs to sleep. The trees are tired. Let them be tired. Barnaby snapped. I'm warm. For the first time in 40 winters, my legs don't hurt. Why should I give this up for a bit of snow and ice? Leo sat down, despite the heat. He didn't argue. Instead, he told Barnaby a story. He spoke about the silver frost and how the trees used the winter to dream of new leaves. He explained that without the cold, the seeds in the ground wouldn't know how to wake up in the spring. A summer that never ends isn't a gift, Barnaby. It's a desert. Ash. To prove his point, Leo led Barnaby to the mouth of the cave. He showed him a patch of wild strawberries that Barnaby used to love. Because the sun had stayed too long, the plants hadn't just grown, they had burned. They were black husks. If you keep the sun, Leo whispered, you will have the warmth, but you will have nothing to eat. You'll be a king of a wasteland. Barnaby looked at the withered plants. He looked at his mirrors. For the first time, he saw that the light he trapped wasn't summer, it was just a ghost of it. Real summer is a movement, not a destination. Ash. With a heavy sigh, Barnaby picked up a heavy stone. Help me, he muttered. One by one, they shattered the mirrors. As each glass broke, a piece of the trapped sunlight escaped, rushing back up the crystal chimney and into the sky. The air in the cavern began to cool. A harsh white light softened into a gentle, honey-coloured amber, but the static stones were harder to break. They had absorbed so much heat that they were glowing red. If they weren't cooled down, they would explode, setting the limestone hill on fire. Ash. Leo knew there was only one way to cool the stones. He reached into his memory, the one the whispering seed had taught him. He didn't have the memory of rain anymore, but he had the feeling of it. He stood at the cave entrance and howled not a hunt cry, but a long, mournful invitation to the clouds. Miles away, the whispering seed, now a willow tree, felt the vibration. The spring breeze he had trapped in the jar long ago stirred in the branches. A single, dark cloud began to form over the southern ridges. Ash. The rain didn't just fall. It hissed as it hit the hot limestone. It poured into the vents, flowing down into the cavern. The static stones cracked and cooled, turning back into harmless grey pebbles. Barnaby sat in his chair as the cool mist filled his cave. He shivered. It was a cold, damp shiver, but it was real asterisk. He looked at Leo and nodded. I suppose a blanket is better than a cage. Ash. The sun finally set over the whispering woods. It wasn't a sudden drop, but a long, beautiful goodbye of purple and gold. At night, the first frost touched the leaves. The forest let out a collective sigh. The maples finally began to turn red. The squirrels found their nuts. And in the depths of the limestone hill, Leo helped Barnaby gather a massive pile of dry moss and soft wool. Winter is coming, Barnaby, Leo said. But you won't be alone. We'll bring you the warmest berries and the sweetest honey before the big snow. Leo returned to his den, the air crisp and cold against his fur. He realised that the secret of the sun wasn't how to catch it, but how to let it go, knowing it would always, eventually come back. Ash. Even though the mirrors were shattered and the sun was free, the limestone hill remained strangely warm. The static stones had absorbed so much celestial energy that they had become ember hearts stones that breathed a soft, orange heat. Leo realised that while the forest was cooling down, Barnaby's burrow was now the only place where the plants were still growing. This created a new problem, the sleeping hunger. Animals who should have been hibernating were being drawn to the warmth of the hill, waking up too early and finding no food in the frozen woods outside. The forever July had left a ghost behind, and it was confusing the forest's rhythm. Ash. Leo saw that he couldn't just throw the stones away. They were too dangerous to move. Instead, he proposed a great huddle. He convinced Barnaby to open his tunnels not as a private sunroom, but as a sanctuary for the oldest and weakest animals who struggled with the frost. Barnaby grumbled, of course. I wanted a quiet winter, Fox, not a boarding house for shivering mice and sneezing hedgehogs. But as the first real blizzard of the year began to howl outside, Barnaby saw a family of field mice shivering in the doorway. His grumpy heart softened. He nudged a glowing ember heart toward them. For the first time, Barnaby felt a warmth that didn't come from a mirror. Ash. As the winter deepened, The rain that had cooled the stones turned into a thick ice lock at the cave's entrance. The very moisture that saved the hill was now sealing everyone inside. The air in the tunnels grew thin and dusty. Leo knew they needed to breathe. He remembered the windwraith he had befriended in the Aurora story. He called out to the spring breeze that lived in the high branches of the great oak. The breeze travelled across the woods, an invisible thread of movement. It didn't try to break the ice. It whispered to it, telling its stories of the coming thaw until the ice became porous and let the fresh, cold air flow through. Ash. Inside the warm cave, Barnaby noticed something he had never seen when he had his mirrors. Shadows. When the sun was trapped, the light was everywhere, and there were no dark corners to rest in. Now, with the soft glow of the ember hearts, the cave was full of dancing shadows. Leo showed Barnaby how to make shadow puppets on the limestone walls. It told the story of the suncatcher to the young mice. Barnaby realised that light is only beautiful because of the darkness that surrounds it. The winter wasn't an enemy to be defeated. It was the frame that made the summer look like a masterpiece. As the months passed, the ember hearts slowly began to fade, their energy spent. By the time the first real sun of March touched the limestone hill, the stones were just ordinary pebbles again. Barnaby stepped out of his burrow. He was thin, and his joints still creaked, but he didn't look grumpy. He looked at the first snowdrop flower pushing through the mud. "It's small," Barnaby whispered. "But it's real," Leo replied. Barnaby realised that if he'd kept the summer, he never would have felt the thrill of that first tiny bud. He thanked Leo with a gruff pat on the shoulder and went to find some fresh, cold roots. The balance was restored, and the secret of the sun was finally safe. As the spring fully took hold, the limestone hill did something unexpected. The energy that had been trapped in the rocks for so long didn't just disappear, it sank deep into the soil. The meadow around Barnaby's burrow became the most vibrant place in the whispering woods. The grass grew taller, the flowers smelled sweeter, and the bees produced a honey that glowed with a faint, golden light. But with this abundance came a new challenge. Animals from outside the whispering woods, creatures who hadn't learned the lessons of the great huddle, began to arrive, wanting to claim the golden meadow for themselves. A group of rowdy crows tried to chase the field mice away, claiming the ground was theirs because it was touched by the sun. Hush. Barnaby, surprisingly, was the first to stand up. He didn't use his claws, he used his voice. He stood atop the limestone hill and told the newcomers about the static stones and the ice lock. "This place isn't special because of the sun," Barnaby told the crows. "It's special because of the cold we shared. If you want to live here, you must learn to share the shade as well as the light." Theo watched from the tree line, realising that the grumpy badger had become the hill's greatest protector. Barnaby had learned that the secret of the sun wasn't about power, it was about hospitality. Hush. In the middle of the following summer, a rare event occurred, a total solar eclipse. As the moon passed in front of the sun, a sudden, chilly darkness fell over the woods in the middle of the afternoon. The forest animals panicked, thinking Barnaby had caught the sun again. But Leo led them to the limestone hill. "Look at the ground," Leo commanded. Because of the residual energy in the limestone, the hill began to glow with a soft, bioluminescent blue as the sky went dark. It was the earth's way of saying, "I remember the light, and I will hold it for you until the sun returns." The animals sat in the blue glow, unafraid of the temporary shadow.